Hello and welcome back to Mysti-Fi, your go-to destination for mystery sci-fi movie recaps. Today we're diving into another Black Mirror episode called Shut Up and Dance. Before we begin, I want to remind you that this video may contain spoilers. Without further ado, let's head straight to the story. A woman parks her car in a parking lot. She gets out of the car and looks around, feeling anxious. She receives a message, then she puts the car keys on one of the wheels of the car and leaves. Kenny is in the kitchen, cleaning the plates. His manager asks him to clean the table. As he cleans the table, he notices a toy on another table, so he returns it to the little girl. Kenny eats alone at the back of the diner. He gets home and looks for his laptop because it's not on his table. He shouts for his sister Linz. She has his laptop, trying to download a program to watch movies for free. His laptop is unresponsive, so Kenny checks it and realizes his laptop is infected with malware. He installs a malware remover. It appears someone is already watching and listening to him from his laptop's webcam. While Kenny is cleaning the tables at his work, he sees a kid's drawing on their table mat. Kenny puts a double lock on his door to prevent her sister from using his laptop again. Kenny goes to his room, opens his laptop and looks at something. He doesn't realize he's being watched through his webcam as he touches himself. Shortly after, he checks his email and sees a message saying they saw what he did. Kenny opens the email and sees a recording of him. He panics and covers his webcam. He receives another email from the same sender and asks for his number. He hesitates to respond but eventually gives in, as he's threatened his video will be shared to everyone in his contacts if he doesn't. He receives a text message instructing him to keep his location services on and his phone charged. They also tell him to keep his mouth shut and warn him he's being watched. He goes to work the next day feeling frazzled. He receives a message saying he has been activated. He needs to obey everything they say or they will leak the video. First, they send him a location with a specific time when he needs to be there. Kenny tells them he is at work, but they tell him to be at the said location in 45 minutes. Kenny tells his manager he's not feeling well and leaves. He drives his bike as fast as he can and he arrives on time. A man arrives at the location and hands him a box. Kenny asks him what he needs to do. The guy, like Kenny, is seemingly anxious and tells him to just do whatever they say and they will let him out after. He receives another message with the location of where he needs to bring the package. He can't ride his bike with the cake, so he rides a bus. He takes a peek at what is inside the box. He gets to the location. He knocks on room 121 and says he has some delivery. The person inside the room answers that it's the wrong room. Kenny sends a message to the mysterious sender that the guy won't open the door. They tell him to say it's from Mindy. Kenny knocks again and says the cake is from Mindy. The man, named Hector, immediately opens the door and lets him in. Hector asks Kenny if Mindy ordered the cake. Kenny is struggling to explain what's going on, so Hector asks to look at his phone and reads the messages. He suddenly receives multiple messages and he looks nervous, so Kenny asks him if it's them. The man goes to the toilet. Kenny asks the mysterious sender if he can go, but they say no and ask him to take a photo of the man. Hector tells Kenny that they both have to follow their instructions and take the cake to another location together. They leave the hotel and go to the parking lot where a woman earlier parked a car and left the key on one of its wheels. Hector takes the key and drives the car. The man reveals they're threatening him to post his private photos and messages that he sent to Mindy. He's worried that if that happens, it will ruin his marriage and family. Kenny cries and tells him that they filmed him touching himself. Hector stops at a gasoline station. He gives Kenny his card to pay for the gas. When Kenny returns to the car, he sees Hector talking to a woman named Karen. Hector introduces him to Karen as his nephew. Karen asks if they could give her a ride. They try to make some excuses, but they eventually let her go with them. The blackmailer sees they are heading the wrong way. Hector drives fast to drop Karen in front of her house, then Hector hurriedly drives to their destination. They arrive at the location, just in front of a bank. They instruct Kenny and Hector to look inside the cake. Hector finds a plastic bag containing a cap, a pair of glasses, and a gun. The blackmailer asks them to decide who the driver and the robber will be. Hector says he will be the driver since Kenny told him he couldn't drive. Kenny panics and says he can't do the robbery. Hector tries to convince him and tells him they don't have a choice. He reminds him of what will happen to them if their videos and photos get leaked. Kenny eventually enters the bank. He points the gun at the teller and tells her to give him loads of money. Kenny is so nervous he pees on his pants. The teller gives him the money and he goes out. He gets into the car and drives. Hector tells Kenny to ask the blackmailers where they will send the money. They give them a location, and they arrive at the place. They give Hector the final instruction to take the car away and destroy it alone. Kenny receives a message, telling him to bring the money to the drop point alone. Hector apologizes to Kenny and tells him to be careful before leaving. Kenny walks to the drop point alone. He enters a gate and continues to walk in the forest until he reaches his drop point. He sees a man waiting for him. He tells Kenny to wait as he will let the drone fly. The guy asks him if he has the prize money, referring to the money Kenny stole from the bank, and tells him they will fight for the money. He then asks Kenny what they are blackmailing him for. Kenny answers he just looked at some photos. The guy says it's the same for him and then asks Kenny how young they were in the photos, but he didn't answer. They receive a message telling them to fight to the death. Kenny points the gun at the guy, then points it at himself. He pulls the trigger, but it doesn't have ammo. The guy attacks Kenny. Hector comes home. He receives a troll face image from the blackmailers. He gets to their bedroom and realizes the blackmailer still sent the videos and photos to his wife. They also released whatever they have against the man who gave the cake to Kenny and the woman who left a car in a parking lot. Kenny is still in the forest, walking alone. His mom calls him, crying and screaming at him for touching himself to photos of kids. He too receives the troll face image from the blackmailers, and soon after, the police arrest him. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new release. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.